Hey, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be checking out Photoshop's new generative AI. Now, AI is all the rave at the moment, and it seems like every company is adding AI into their suite of products. Adobe is no different, and they've added AI into Photoshop. So you can do a heap of new things, but let's play around with it and see how good it actually is. Okay, so once you open up Photoshop, and that is Photoshop Beta, because that's an important part of this. You need to download and install Photoshop Beta, not just the normal Photoshop. You're gonna see down the bottom here, you've got this new little taskbar thing, and it allows you to do a couple of quick features, such as select subject and remove background very quickly. So let's go ahead and try this. I've got a couple of stock images here that I've just downloaded from Unsplash. So if we come down here and click on the select subject, let's see if it picks up the car. Okay, so it did notice that that's the car, but the masking's a little bit off on the side here. So we could go ahead and we could make that selection and then change, the outline there and fix that up a little bit. It's not bad. But let's see if we do it one more time, if it does a bit better. No, so it's done the same thing again. That's okay. So once you've got a selection, you've got here Generative Fill, and this is the thing that is really cool. It allows you to click that and then enter in a prompt and then click Generate. Now, let's say for example, we want to change this to a pink car. Let's see what it does. And this is one of the first times that I've been playing around with Photoshop Generative Fill, so we're just going to see what happens. I'm going to use some of the prompting that I know from the past and just use some basic prompts that most normal people would be using. So that is pretty horrendous. Let's see if there's a better one here. Okay, that's pretty to be honest. That's all right. So let's undo all that because that is horrendous. Let's select the car itself and see if we can't make it a little bit better. So let's say, for example, change the color of this car to a metallic pink. Let's see what it does. So from the previews that I've seen from Adobe, the Generative Fill looks pretty damn good. So I'm kind of excited to see how it works and how good it really is. Ooh, okay, interesting. It's changed the car completely. The car's a little bit better than the last one, but it's still pretty That's not even pink. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I'm not too impressed from that. That's not amazing. It might be my prompting there. Let's try a different example. So let's delete that layer, but instead let's remove the windows. So let's select here, and then we can go Generative Fill. And I think this is where most people will be using the Generative Fill. It'll be to change specific elements of the image rather than change the entire objects in the image. Let's try this. Okay, there we go. So it's removed the window completely. It looks pretty good. It's continued the pattern that was down the bottom here up to here. It's also added this little bit of a smog or haze or whatever you want to call it there. That's not bad. That's not bad. Let's say, for example, we want to add a light in to here. So we can select there and we can say, add a floor light to the scene. Let's see what it does. I'm curious to see if it adds it in that monotone, unsaturated, desaturated kind of look, or if it just, plops a light in. Okay, that looks like it's more of a plop the light in kind of situation. It has picked up that this is where the floor is and that's where it would sit. No, it doesn't look that good. No, I probably wouldn't use any of these, to be honest. Let's delete those and jump on over to a separate image here. So let's say, for example, we have this image and we want to make it square. So we want it to be 1 by 1. And we want to bring it out to about there. Now that we have this image, we want to continue this image across to there. So this is another thing that they show off in the preview for generative fill, where you can just select that and then you don't even have to enter a prompt. You just click generate fill and it will fill in the gaps. So let's see how well this works for this image. Okay, that is surprisingly good. That filled in the foreground, it filled in all the waves. And to be honest, I can't even see where the seam line is. That is amazing. The light, the floor light example was absolutely horrendous. The car example was absolutely horrendous with those subjects, but filling in the patterns of the waves, the clouds, the foreground elements, just awesome. And that would take a photo editor a few hours to make perfect like this, especially if you're doing both sides, making a square image. Yep, that's wonderful. Yeah, and to the other side perfectly too. I don't even see the seam lines. Let's have a look at a couple of the different variations. Oh yeah. Wow, yeah. You could probably use all three of those and nobody would even know. So let's try remove the subject here. Click here and remove subject. This is another thing that people would use all the time in photo editing. Just being able to say remove subject as opposed to having to use the clone stamp tool. That doesn't look very good. That also doesn't look very good. And I don't even know what that is. It seems a little bit glitchy here. That's interesting, okay. I mean, it's a pretty cool bird and it looks like it's in the right place and everything, but none of those did the right thing. Okay, let's try no prompt. Let's see what it does with no prompt. Okay. No, it's just on this random bird, this other random person. No, that's pretty average. So it seems like we're seeing a pattern here. We're seeing that the generative fill is not very good with subjects. It's very good with patterns and backgrounds, but not very good with subjects. Let's jump on over to another image here, and this one is pretty complex. There's a lot of things happening in this image. We've got some subjects in the background. We've got some foreground elements here with the light coming in and stuff. Let's say, for example, we want to change the front elements here to not necessarily being a shop, but we want to change it to being a cafe. So let's select this side element here and go generative fill, a busy cafe. Okay, so there we go. It's actually put in some tables and chairs like there was a cafe. I can see something happening in the background here. That might be the cafe itself. Let's have a look at a couple of different examples. That's also quite nice. And that's also not bad. You've got elements of a cafe here. It's pretty seamless between what's happening over this side and that side. I think these would be pretty usable. That's interesting that it's able to do these tables and chairs so well in that foreground. The angle is sitting right. Even I think the lighting is actually quite good as well. The way that the shadows coming across here is similar to what you're seeing where the light's coming in through this side that's being covered by the table and creating that shadow down the bottom there. It's interesting that that worked so well, but yet with the car and with the subject in the foreground, it didn't work so well. That's really interesting. So there you go, a couple of different ways that you can use generative fill within Photoshop. It is an incredibly useful tool to copy those background images like we saw over here and extend out borders. It didn't work so well with the subjects, which was quite interesting, and removing or changing things like we had in the example of the car. But when you have things like, for example, the window in the background, it worked really well. And when you added like a full-on element such as the cafe, it worked pretty well. Are you impressed by it, or do you think it's just gimmicky and they've just added in AI into the product? Overall, I think that this is going to save photo editors hours of time with a lot of the different tools, but it has its limitations. Let me know your thoughts below, and I will see you in the next video.